Bonjour, bonjour, mon ami. I called to talk to you today, and I will be talking a little slower than usual because I am in great pain. And some of you may have noticed I have a chandelier growing out of my head, and it is extremely painful. But, wait! Aha! It is a miracle. The chandelier is chancegan. And now I'm feeling fine. Oops, there's the pain again. Now it's gone. No, it's back again. These programs are not easy. They're not easy to produce. They're very expensive. You may notice we have an expensive set behind this. It's actually just what it was. This is a green screen and it's a picture. It's not really a chandelier. Then why does it hurt so much when I sit like this? Qui sait, as we say in Francais. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about the economy. Because I hear, and I know they're running for office, but I hear these every Republican that gets on the air says, this economy is terrible. Is this what you want? You want some more of the Biden-Harris economy? What are you going to do to fix the economy? Well, in my practice, what's left of it, I still deal with a lot of people in foreign countries. And every time I talk to somebody in another country, doesn't matter where it is, the first thing they say is they cannot believe that anybody in America is complaining about our economy. And their comments range all the way from spoiled brats to nitwits, because they would kill, and sometimes do, to have an economy anywhere close to ours. We have an outstanding economy. And at the same time, I'm hearing primarily Republicans now, but it's still here from commentators. The price of gasoline is still too high. The price of gasoline has been plummeting in this country. There's lots of reasons the price of gas is affected, which is why economists or the Fed, when they're setting interest rates, don't even pay attention to gas prices or anything else that fluctuates wildly like gas or food. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. So they don't factor it in when they're setting Fed policy. It's not core inflation. Some of you would say it's encore inflation, but those are those of you who go to operas regularly. And you're not typical of the people who watch this program. Most people in this country don't even know what an opera is. So I don't want to hear you saying encore, encore, unless you want me to speak again, which for some reason none of you do. Sure, you go to the opera, you want to sing some stupid song over and over again, but you never want me to repeat what I've just said, which is too bad, because I do that a lot. Yeah, stop with your petty criticisms and implanting things in my head. What do you think of Donald Trump? So, at least I think that's what happened to him. All those fixtures at Mar-a-Lago, so God, it hit somehow and scrambled around in there. I like doing that. Yeah, I do. You try it. It's fun. You gotta know how to say it while you're doing it. You can't just do it. You have to go while you're doing it. Nice fingers, huh? Still have them all in spite of Francois's best efforts. So, I'm sorry, Ross. I know you hate it when I get off track. I'm back again. I'm back. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, growing old. No, that wasn't it. That was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Or was it the day before? Am I growing old or am I growing young? I can't remember. I can't keep these things straight. This is what happens when you're almost 80. Am I almost 80? No, that's not possible. I'm almost 70. No, that's not possible either. So, I went to this birthday party. I think I may have mentioned this. A friend of mine just turned 70. I said, you're so cute. I said, you're just adorable. I told his girlfriend, take his picture. They're so cute at that age. Before they grow up and see what the world is really like when you get to be almost 80. That's me, almost. And Mikey's birthday is coming up on Monday, and he's going to be 80, which means we can't be friends anymore. So, not that we're that close anyway. Not since he sold his stupid restaurant. I've been spending all day working on his contract. And guess what? There's nothing in there for me. Nothing. So, of course, I wrote something in. Hopefully he won't notice. And I don't think he's watching this program today. He says he does, but then I ask him, well, did you catch this? And he's always like, I don't know, I didn't catch that, because he's not watching. So he's not watching. That's what happens. I've just told you. I wrote my name into your contract. I'm getting the big bucks. You're getting nothing. I wrote a small referral fee. And if you're watching this, you can catch that. And if you're not watching it serves you right. It's a lesson to all of you. Watch this program, or I'm liable to come in and cheat you out of whatever small pensions you have. I am a lawyer. That's my job. So, The economy's stupid. Let's get back to that. That's Ross telling me. Get back to the subject. Then quit deviating. Don't be deviant. Easier said than done. So, the economy. Our growth, continuous, since we turned the corner on COVID, has been astronomical. Phenomenal. A lot of it is because of the administration's policies, which most people don't know. They're a little complicated, so of course they never talk about them in the media. But just the money they put into batteries and other types of products that are non-polluting. Hundreds of billions of dollars that is not taxpayer money, it's taxpayers' money that is going to create jobs and to bring jobs back here. And it's not just in that sector, it's in all kinds of sectors, including the CHIPS Act, including the infrastructure. All of these things cause the economy to grow and grow and grow. But when you're putting money in people's hands, there are laws of economics called supply and demand. So the more you hire people and the more you pay people, the more they're available to buy products. And when you do that, prices go up. That's why they say that one of the criteria for expanding an economy is you have to have some degree of inflation or the economy won't expand. You have to have a greater demand than you have supply in order for people to provide more supply, which means they have to hire more people, and that's how an economy grows. But the more you do that, the more you put money in people's hands, the more money they want to spend, the higher prices go. The reverse of that is you do what was happening at the end of the Trump administration. You don't give people money. You don't increase the productivity in this country. And what happens is then prices start going down, but the economic growth starts going down, and jobs start going down, and you keep down and down and down until you finally get into either a recession or a depression, which has been the history of this country with Republicans ever since, I wanted to say Hoover, but it was before that, was before Harding and Coolidge. That's when this whole big thing started with Republicans cutting taxes and cutting demand and causing inflation while increasing the national debt. Started with Warren G. Harding, he died. Calvin Coolidge took over, continued the same policies. Herbert Hoover took over the same policies, and it wasn't until Roosevelt came in 1932, starting in 1933, when this started changing. So you have to use government policy wisely. You don't want to overspend. You don't want to overcut taxes for the wealthy, which is what Republicans keep doing. Hoover did it. Harding did it. Coolidge did it. Reagan did it. George Bush Jr. did it. And Trump did it. You know who didn't do it? Dwight Eisenhower. And when Eisenhower retired from office, you know what our national debt was? Zero. Now, unfortunately, he went a little bit the other way, and so we had 2 recessions during his administration. Kennedy started borrowing again, but very, very lightly. And he cut some taxes, too, but they were targeted tax cuts. He didn't cut them. He introduced the legislation, didn't pass till he died, but it was his legislation. So, that's the basic picture. We have a healthy, growing, solid economy with growing wages. Prices are growing, but very slightly. We're down at, I think, something like around 2% inflation, around 4% unemployment, a little bit lower, which is full employment. So we have a solid, healthy economy, which is increasing all the time. You want to quit that? You're complaining about that? You want to get Donald Trump in office so he can change all that? What's he going to change it to? Well, let's see. The stock market closed at 41,500 and change on Friday. 41,500. When the stock market dropped for one day down to 3,900, Donald Trump came out and started labeling that the Harris Depression. Now that it's back up at record highs again at 41,500 and change, I think it's 5,580 or something like that. That's just the Dow Jones, but it's indicative. Now that that's happened, I don't hear a peep about it. Is that what you want, ladies and gentlemen of America? Do you want to lose all the value of your homes that have increased in value dramatically in the last few years? You want to lose all that and go back? Is that what you want? You want to go back? You want to make America great again and lose all the value, all the equity you obtained in your homes? You want to lose all the value of the stocks and bonds that you... I'm talking about middle America here now. I'm talking about the middle classes, which everybody wants to appease. The middle class puts money in retirement accounts, and that money has grown and grown and grown during the last administration, this present administration. They put money into homes, and those homes have increased in value dramatically during this administration. Do you want to undo all of that? Is that the economy you want to go back to? You're complaining about gas prices? Gas prices are now going way down. And what gets me is they're still talking about it. Oh, gas prices, gas prices, gas prices. Republicans are talking about it. The average person, I don't hear them talking about the gas prices anymore. But even when they were high, I've railed about this before, and I'm doing it again. Because this weekend you're supposed to have record travel, record numbers of people driving, record numbers of miles in their cars, record number of people is filling up my airport so I can't even get out of go take a trip of my own because I won't hang out with those cars. They might have COVID or who knows what they might have. And I got my COVID shot. I'm sorry, Ross, didn't make me tell you. So, anyway, record numbers of people spending records of numbers of dollars they don't have to spend. They're spending it on leisure and recreation. If we're in such terrible shape, why do people have that kind of money to spend on leisure and recreation? It probably includes you. So let's get rid of this horrible economy. Let's get back all of our equity in our homes. Let's get back all the equity in our stocks. Let's get back whatever raises we've been able to take. Let's fire all the people who've gotten jobs. Let's go back to make America great again. That's absurd. And anytime some politician, and it's almost always Republicans now because they're running against the administration, gets out and says, are you satisfied with the economy? Whoever they're talking to, I don't even care if it's Fox News, should raise these points. Well, I don't know. Mr. Trump or Mr. Vance or whatever Republican is their spokeshole of the day, I don't know. What do you think, Mr. Vance? Do you think we should give up with the equity in our homes? My home is now worth $1 million. Now, not me personally, I'm talking about the people, many of whom have homes that are now worth $1 million, and I didn't pay anywhere close to that. I gotta be honest. I sold my house in California for $1 million. I paid $350,000 for it. That was during this administration. I don't want to give that back. I don't want to give that up. Ask these people. I said, Mr. Vance, are you telling people that who own homes that have increased in value that they should be dissatisfied with that, and you have a program that's going to cause them to lose all the value in their home? What is your program, one way or another? We haven't heard that. But what is that what you're complaining about? You're telling these people they should be dissatisfied because their home has increased in value? What about their stock? Are you telling these people they should be disturbed? Why don't the reporters ask these tough questions of these guys? I sure as hell would. But that's what we do for a living. So, it's like, I don't want to hear any more people whining and complaining about the economy. We have an outstanding economy, and Americans should be grateful as hell that we have it. Period. Stop. And if you're one of those people who think we have a terrible economy because you're paying a little more for eggs, stop eating the damn eggs. Yeah? Just go on a straight booze diet. You'll be happy. You won't be having to pay the price of eggs. I don't think the price of booze has gone up that much. Don't know, because when you drink a lot, you don't really pay attention to what it costs. You can't remember anyway. The next day, all you care about is, oh, how much does Alka-Seltzer cost? That's relevant. But I digress again. Excuse me, Ross. I'm so sorry. Again. I'm really sorry. That was insincere. We call it insincere. 3 words. So, we have a great economy. Stop bellyaching about it. If you really don't like what's going on with the economy right now, stop spending money. Save. You know you spend all kinds of money you don't need to spend on things like food and shelter. You don't need to do that. So, but anyway, that's just my commentary for today, because it's irritating when I hear people be dishonest, and when people complain about the economy, the American economy is terrible, like this, what's his name, that orange guy. We're living in a third world shithole. The economy, this country's in terrible shape. Really? Really? Because I look around, I don't see it. Now, if I were living in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco, I'd look around and see a bunch of homeless people, and I wouldn't like that very much. I don't even like going to the Tenderloin when I'm there, or even walking through it. Unfortunately, the federal courthouse is down there, so sometimes I have to. But it's like, yeah, there are places and things going on, a lot of it in California. Why? Because of the weather. Homeless people don't want to hang out in Indianapolis. They'd rather go hang out in Santa Monica. So you're going to have that. And that's a problem for Indianapolis. I mean, it's not a problem for Indianapolis, it's a problem for California. But that has nothing to do with the vast majority of the people in this country who are living pretty well right now. And those other problems are problems. You try to solve problems. You don't try to say, oh, look, there's a problem. Let me see if I can get another vote because of that. That's not being a good citizen. Citizens. I used to have this high school physics teacher. It was one of the reasons I got my physics degree. It was just very inspiring. And he used to refer to us all as citizens. Now, citizen, he'd say, and then he'd begin to start talking about quantum mechanics. The only thing I remember from him is that, well, citizen, I don't remember anything about quantum mechanics, which is unfortunate since it was part of my major at Michigan. That's how I got my first job, actually. That's right. It's true. The Air Force was looking for a lawyer with a background in quantum mechanics, and I was the only one they could find. Otherwise, they'd hired anybody else. But they couldn't, so I got the job. And that's right. After I blew up a few laboratories, I lost the job. Hey, who's perfect? It was the Air Force. They used to bombs. So, I made all that up. Not the part about quantum mechanics, though. So, or working for the Air Force. Or blowing up buildings. You take what you get from me with a grain of salt and pepper. So, quantum is the issue. What's the amount? How much are you making a year? How is the economy doing for you personally? And this is the part that gets me. Poll after poll after poll. They ask people, how are you doing? Great. Because you ask somebody who owns a home, who has a job, who has stock, they're doing great. Then they ask the same people, how's the country doing? Oh, the economy's terrible. Now, that breaks down right on party lines. But Republicans, which is one of the reasons I get so annoyed with them, will say they're doing great and then say the economy's doing terrible because there's a Democrat in the White House. You flip that and put Trump in the White House and ask the same question. I'm doing great and the economy's doing wonderful. Democrats, not so much. You know, I see Democrats, if there's when they do these pollings and their economy is doing fine, and the few times it is, usually after somebody inherits the economy, like Trump did from Obama in his first couple of years, and they ask how's the economy doing, they'll say okay, even when they're not doing that great. Republicans, you can tell how they're going to answer the poll questions based on who's in the White House. And those are my friends, and includes some of you. You look at what they're asking average Republicans, how are you doing? Great. How's the economy doing? Terrible. When there's a Democrat in the White House. They know the economy's not doing terrible, but they say it because of their partisanship. That's got to stop. Democrats are partisan too, but nothing like Republicans. Oops, there's the phone ringing, and I have to put you guys on pause. I should just quit, but I'm not going to come back. I apologize. That was Donald Trump calling again. Here's the thing about him. I don't dislike the guy. He's my neighbor. But he's a pain in the ass. Every time the press isn't there, hey, yeah, come on over and spend a little time with me. I'm getting lonesome. So you got a wife? He said, yeah, so I'm lonesome. I don't want to go into that. It's personal, it's private, it's between us. I'm talking about Trump and his wife. What? Okay, I'm sorry if it's low class. I never said it was anything but low class. It's better than having no class. At least I got class, some kind of class. So, anyway, I don't know enough about this. It's ragging on the economy, but the reality is we're doing pretty well as a country. We're doing very well. And the problems we have are problems that we can solve. But we got to stop this business of constantly calling people names, Trump. Stop doing it. Let's add a little class back into the dialogue. I mean, I never cared much for Richard Nixon because he was a liar like Trump. But at least he and Kennedy carried on decent conversations. Actually, they were friends. Not many people know this, but Kennedy was in the hospital after his back operation. And Nixon went and visited him all the time. Here's something else people don't know. And you should know your history, folks, which I try to help others. You probably don't even remember who George Marshall was. Well, George Marshall was the head of America's military forces during World War II. It wasn't Eisenhower. Marshall hired Eisenhower to promoted him, put him in that position. Eisenhower answered to Marshall. George C. Marshall was a leftover general from the First World War. And after the war, Truman hired Marshall to put together the Marshall Plan to save Europe from the ravages of the war, and it worked tremendously, and Europe came flying back, and it was the Marshall Plan. Well, the Marshall Plan required a bunch of money from the United States, and it had to go through Congress. So Harry Truman needed some people to help Marshall shepherd this through Congress. So he called the two brightest guys in the Congress that he knew, and they were a young congressman named John Fitzgerald Kennedy and another congressman called Richard M. Nixon. This is before the Alger Hiss thing with Nixon. This was early on, right after World War II. Those two young congressmen became friends. They worked together and they marshaled together. This is them together. Marshaled the Marshall Plan through the House of Representatives, and it later got passed through the Senate and was a huge success. And those two people, those two congressmen, remained friendly, became friends. And when Kennedy had his back operation, only one person went to see Kennedy every day in the hospital, and that was Nixon. You know what else Nixon did? I can't believe I'm saying good things about Nixon, but there were good things to say about him. One of which was, when Kennedy was assassinated, Lyndon Johnson never invited Kennedy's widow or kids to the White House. Never invited them. That was one of the reasons, it wasn't just the war, one of the reasons I really disliked Lyndon Johnson. And even though he did some good things, mainly he signed into law the things that Kennedy started. When Nixon became president, the first thing he did was invite Jackie and the kids over to the White House for dinner, and he invited them repeatedly. He was very considerate of those kids. So Nixon did have a good side to him. When it came to politics, he was ruthless because he just wanted to get his own way, and he had a little bit of a screw loose, particularly when he drank. But he was civilized. And he and Kennedy, I remember one time they asked Kennedy, what do you think about Richard Nixon? This is when they were running for president. Do you have anything good to say about him? And Kennedy said, well, yeah. He said, Richard Nixon is the nominee of the Republican Party. And he is a very good spokesman for the Republican Party, for their views, for their issues. He said, I'm a Democrat. We have fundamental different views of the role of government. And so I ask people to embrace my view, which is the view of the Democratic Party, but Richard Nixon is a fine spokesman for his party. And he was right. He was. So, for whatever those values were, I still don't know what they were. I still don't know to this day what Richard Nixon and the Republican parties ever have been, except for what they're against. But Nixon was good. He was bad with Vietnam, but he was strong for the Cold War, as was Reagan, as was Kennedy, as was Truman. So, those people kind of acting together through their State Department professionals that Trump is always bashing, really put enough pressure, economic pressure on the Soviet Union that they finally just collapsed and communism was gone. Now we're stuck with Gorbachev, but that's a whole different issue. So they were normal people and they talked to each other decently. This Trump guy is an absolute buffoon. The things he says about people, calls them all these names, ridicules them, makes up silly names about people, says that Kamala Harris is stupid and she's boring and she doesn't know if she's black or if she's Indian. What does that have to do with it? And then Republicans say, well, we want to talk about policy. Really? What policies do you want to talk about? You want to talk about your policy for what? Undoing the gains of the stock market? Your policies for undoing people's appreciation of their homes? Your policy to eliminate inflation by adding 69% tariffs to imported goods? What are your policies? You remember what his policy was before, when he was like dealing with China? You don't remember this because you probably didn't know it because the press doesn't cover it well. Slap tariffs on Chinese goods. The Chinese reciprocated by stopping buying American wheat. So you know what he did? He took the money from the tariffs and he gave it to the farmers to compensate them for the loss of sales for the wheat. So you know what? People who paid those tariffs, that's you and I, that was money that we took to pay the farmers because of money they lost because of Trump's policies towards China. That's his economic policy. So I don't know what his economic policy is today, but I want you people to think about what policies you're talking about. And when you hear Trump do nothing but go around and call people names and ridicule people and be nasty to people, and this is another thing I heard Vance say, well, he's got a sense of humor, he's jolly like a satanic Santa Claus, right? That what he calls humor, what Trump calls humor, what Vance calls humor, instead of being, what's sarcasm? It's not sarcasm. Sarcasm can be funny and witty, and as long as it's not painful, as long as it doesn't deliberately attempt to hurt people. You make fun of people for something where there's nothing wrong with them, and they know it, and they can laugh at themselves. Like making fun of somebody's tie, like Ted Kennedy used to do all the time in the office when I worked for him. He was always making fun of people's ties. A lot of people made fun of his ties too. He didn't have great taste in ties. But that's you can be sarcastic in a way which is uplifting. You tease people. That's called teasing. And you do it in a non-nasty play. It makes people laugh at themselves, and they appreciate that often that you're drawing attention to them. They don't engage in sarcasm. Vance doesn't do sarcasm. It's a snarkasm. That's right. I made up that word, and if I catch you using it, don't forget I'm an intellectual property lawyer, not just an intellectual. Intellectual I is. So, but apart from just being an intellectual, I is also an intellectual property lawyer. And I'll sue you if you go around using the term snarkasm, because it's my term. But I think it more closely describes what Vance calls sarcasm. It's being snarky, being snide. So I could call it snidism too. Snarky and snide, S&S. That's not funny. That's not humorous. And it's so telling that part of what Trump does is his snarkasm thing that he puts on is to make fun of Kamala Harris because she laughs, and I've done a whole thing on this before. She belly laughs. It comes from inside. Have you ever seen Donald Trump belly laugh? Have you ever seen him just let it out and just express the fun of laughter? How about Vance? Vance can barely turn his lips up. They're so tight to his beard, he can't even move them up like that, so he can smile a little bit, much less laugh. I've never seen these guys laugh. So they don't understand someone who does. They understand snarkasm. And there's that guy on Fox News, I forget his name, the skinny little guy who went to Berkeley. He does that snarky. He's their supposedly comedic guy. He just snidism, snarkasm, snide little comments and remarks. You never see him actually laugh from inside where you feel good and you share that expression with other people. I love people who laugh. I laugh myself sometimes. I laugh at you guys. I know you're laughing at me, but you're snide in the way you laugh at me. So stop watching this program. I've had it with snide remarks and Snidely Whiplash. Snidely Whiplash. Remember Snidely Whiplash? Sorry, Rod. But he was always one of my favorites. Because he was snide. He's snarky. He was a Republican. Okay. I'm going to talk about, not now, because if you've listened this long, you're entitled to a break. But in my next episode, I want to talk about this immigration nonsense, what it means for the economy, and what it actually is going on there. Because I do immigration law, it's another one of my areas of expertise. I want to talk about that and some other odds and ends of things that have been annoying me for some time. But I wanted to get this off my back and whatever about the economy. So thanks for listening, assuming you did. And if you turned off early, I want you people who watch this to call the people who turned off early and threaten them. Yes, with bodily harm. Who do you think you're talking to? Bye.